Quick quiz here. Do you strength train twice a week to muscular fatigue? Are you able to lift heavy using weights that cause fatigue within 10 or fewer repetitions? Are you consuming adequate calories daily? And if you're trying to lose weight, are you creating no more than a 250 to 500 kcal deficit with a diet higher in protein than normal to minimize your muscle loss? Are you fueling before and after your intentional exercise sessions? Are you consuming at least 30 grams of protein, not by weight, by the way, per meal? Do you consume high quality protein based on essential amino acids? And do you prioritize your exercise time and energy around activity that allows muscle and bone maintenance before other activities that don't support aging optimally in the same way? That last one's a doozy. I'm going to repeat it. Do you prioritize your exercise time and energy around activity that allows muscle and bone maintenance before other activities that don't support aging optimally in the same way? All right. If you answered no to any of those questions, and the more questions you answered no to, you're more at risk for growing weaker, sicker, and fatter as you age. Now, what I just gave you in a nutshell was the quiz to learn whether you're truly doing an after 50 fitness formula for women. I'm Deborah Atkinson. You're listening to Flipping 50, where I address your top struggles and concerns, and I share what to eat, how to move, and how to change your mindset, often about how to move and what to eat right now because it's changed, so that you can have the energy and the vitality that you want, need, and deserve in this second and better half. Muscle and bone losses begin for each of us after we peak at 25 and 30, respectively. During menopause, you're at risk of losing muscle and bone at an accelerated rate. And this is especially true in the late stage perimenopause, early stage postmenopause, which is what I'm calling menopause. The dramatic decline of estrogen that occurs during this time is the cause. Estrogen serves as a stimulus for lean muscle tissue. Without estrogen, you need something to replace that stimulus. The words women echo to me over and over are: nothing I'm doing works anymore. I haven't changed anything and I'm gaining weight. Bingo. You've just actually revealed the reason for your problem in the statement of the problem. When you no longer have that stimulus from estrogen, as well as testosterone and growth hormone, you have two solutions to pick up that stimulus and where it left you. It's hello, weight training, my new best friend. One of those solutions is strength training, and the other is protein. Independently, they both boost what's called muscle protein stimulus. Together, they boost it even more. That means increasing your ability to use protein that you consume to the benefit of your muscle, to turn it over, to increase it, make it more resilient. Therefore, with more muscle, you have more metabolically active tissue. Your body burns more calories for everything that you might be doing, not just exercise, but for the rest of the day. Because we're not just trying to get a quick fix and a hit and burn calories for 20 or 30 minutes. What we're doing is changing body composition so that sitting, as I'm doing right now, recording this, I'm burning more calories as an active woman who lifts weights to muscular fatigue twice a week and does high intensity interval training and eats adequate protein than a woman who does none of those or even fewer of those. So, You've heard me say this before. What I'm taking off on is a rant that truly you and I should be changing the world. We will if we stick to our guns and we don't accept what's been the rule, what's been true before. Never, ever, ever should we join or move into or even consider the possibility that we'll spend our retirement or golden years, quote unquote, in a retirement community or in assisted living or a nursing home that does not recommend weight training, that does not provide regular strength training means, whether through classes or a weight room with machines and the ability to bring in your own trainers, because it is literally the fountain of youth. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But why is it so serious right now? Menopause combined with pandemic effects of reduced activities of daily living, gym closures, dumbbell shortages, increased stress, and research reports of significant weight gain. More on that in a minute. A large percent of the population is at elevated risk for health concerns. And those who were exercising more, even during the pandemic, weren't necessarily doing more of the activity that preserves muscle and bone. Without mitigation, right now, during aging, and specifically during menopause, the female human body becomes weaker and fatter. This combination of sarcopenia, that is muscle loss, and obesity, the gain of fat, is referred to as sarcobesity. If you've lost muscle and gained fat during the pandemic, that does not bode well for a healthy future. And not only have losses been significant, but they've occurred during a relative short window of time. Was that true for you? If you evaluate the last 18 months, would you say that it accelerated or it slowed your aging? Because you really didn't do something neutral. You're not just on this bus. It either accelerated your habits or slowed your aging. The percent of people who actually track their lean muscle tissue and fat weight is fairly small. It's growing in the last 3 to 5 years with the affordability and the availability of smart scales for home use. It's one of the number one home fitness tools that I recommend every home have. During the pandemic, that began, well, I used to suggest going to a fitness center, a nutrition center, or oddly enough, because it's rare, the doctor's offices actually have smart scales to get body composition tests done regularly. During the pandemic, that came to a halt. Every home should have a smart scale. But here's what I want you to do, because even among our members and students, we're getting caught up in the wrong details. Everybody's so curious about their percent body fat and what is a healthy percent body fat. Whatever that is, what you're concerned about right now is it is what it is. You're benchmarking where you are now. How much fat, how much muscle do you have? And you're going to look at what effect do my daily habits, the number of hours of sleep, quality sleep that I get, the protein that I eat, the strength training that I'm doing or not doing, how is that affecting my muscle and my fat? We get so concerned about weight in our society, but it's actually potentially that focus on weight that could make you fatter over time. Women who focused on weight and focused on, I'm losing weight, I'm losing weight, I'm happy, I'm so happy I'm losing weight, will generally gain back more weight than they lost, and it will be fat. When we lose weight, it's muscle and fat. What your goal would be is to reduce the amount of muscle lost and at the same time stimulate lean muscle gain. Your scale will change at a slower rate and pace, but your body composition will stay on track, making your clothes fit better, making your inches reduce, and making you stronger without deprivation. You feel good. exercising and eating. You don't feel good starving with no energy to exercise. And nothing that makes you feel terrible while you're doing it is going to make you healthy. But what we've done for decades is convinced women that, oh, yes, this will work. And they brainwashed you. And the pictures and the images of airbrushed people who probably haven't even done the program are there for 5 minutes. You've got to remember that women who pose for images starve themselves to do so. They're not about health, even though they're the images pictured. Figure competitors, bodybuilders, women who look so great really cannot sustain the kind of training program that gets them to that minute where they pose on stage, and most of them want a Big Mac afterward. They're no longer able to sustain that diet, and many of them are not healthy while they're in that low state of body fat and restricting their diet heavily. Okay, end of rant and tantrum. All right. In early 2021, a study published in the Journal of American Medical Association, or JAMA, tracked smart scale users with a Bluetooth technology so they could track them from wherever they were. Average weight gain. And by the way, the average age of the subjects in the study was 51. Now, that means there were younger and older, and this was both genders, so factor that in. But the average weight gain was 1.5 pounds a month during the pandemic. By May 2020, if you were just doing math from beginning to then, that would have been 20 pounds of weight gain. A study published slightly later than that, just a month or two after, by the American Psychology Association, found that the number that of weight gain was something more like 15 to 29 pounds. So they gave a bigger range. Also, wider age group of people studied, and men and women. So factor that in. I like to share usually studies that are really based on women in menopause and only and specifically, but in all cases, that's not possible. So I want you to know it. But chances are good those gains, wherever that specific needle is, was not muscle. Can we agree on that? Weight training should be mandatory after 50, and here is why. With weight training, you have an opportunity to, here they are, 21 reasons why. And this is by no means an all inclusive, exhaustive list. It's just a start. You have the ability to reverse the effects of aging. 6 months of 2 times a week strength training has positive effect on 179 genes associated with aging. You start now. By January 1, as I'm giving this live, you could have reversed those genes and their actions on your aging simply twice a week. You can live longer and stronger and independently. It's proven that strength training can be increased. And the oldest group that I could find strength training is actually been done on. And it's not to say that it wouldn't benefit older individuals. It's just we haven't gotten that far yet. But strength increases are significant in older adults 85 to 97 years old participating in strength training programs. You will reduce depression and anxiety. And there are over 40% of women in postmenopause have depression, and up to 25% have anxiety. Sometimes that came on in menopause, sometimes that existed prior, but sometimes is worsened during menopause. Studies on the exercise, besting, medication, and cognitive therapy, either independently or combined, clearly point out the fact that exercise, with its positive side effects, outplays the benefits of medication for depression and anxiety and cognitive therapy, both independently or together. And medications all have negative side effects. There's increased brain cognition. Significant improvements in problem solving when exercise happens during the workday. By the way, job satisfaction at the end of a workday where you've exercised is increased. You can decrease dementia and Alzheimer's. Very recently, some exciting studies are showing you can slow and or stop or halt Alzheimer's development. Enhance your libido. Unlike cardiovascular activity, which often decreases libido. You can improve your blood sugar levels and your insulin sensitivity, which leads right to decreasing your risk of diabetes or improving diabetes and decreasing your need for taking as much insulin. And remember, any medication has negative side effects. The less you have to take, the better. Improve your blood pressure, improve cholesterol levels. Exercise is notorious for improving your HDL, that's your happy or your beneficial cholesterol. You can decrease your risk of back pain and taking that a little bit further, decrease your risk of back pain, prevent it from happening or prevent it from recurring. You can decrease arthritis pain. Improve your body composition, meaning reduced fat, increased lean muscle, and average results. Average with a strength training program based on major muscle groups performed regularly for at least 12 weeks. These kinds of results were found. The loss of fat was about 4 pounds over a 1 month. The increase of lean muscle mass was 3 pounds over 1 month, coming out with a negative weight loss of 1 pound. But pay attention to what I just said. You lost 4 pounds of fat, you gained 3 pounds of muscle. That makes your clothes feel better, makes your energy level greater, means that you can eat the same or even a little more food without gaining weight. So if you're starving, you don't have to be. Those same benefits are generally expected within the first 12 weeks. So for 3 months in a row, you can expect that if you are a beginner. Always the benefits are greater for beginners. You can decrease your risk of injuries from activities of daily life or your sports participation. You can enhance your enjoyment of the activities you love in later stages of life. Improve your sleep quality. Up to 60% of postmenopausal women suffer from sleep issues. So this is a big one. A poll by the National Sleep Foundation back in 2013 found that 10 minutes of exercise every day, self selected intensity, nobody telling you how far, how fast, what your rate of exercise was, it did not matter, improved self reports of the quality of sleep by 33%. Pretty good ROI. Decrease your overall stress levels, increase your daily energy levels, boost your daily energy expenditure, which means your metabolism is greater because not just of your exercise time, but of your all day change in metabolism. You can enhance your mitochondrial production and decrease bone losses. But perhaps the biggest reason of all is a number 22. All of those things collectively add up to an increased quality of life, extended health span, and decreased cost of illness, injuries, and disease. The side effects from physical exercise, specifically strength training, are phenomenal. You have more energy to do the things you love with the people you love when you want to do them. Is it the fountain of youth? The act of strength training alone within correct parameters, however, has a problem. It will fall short without adequate recovery and protein intake I hinted at earlier. Though many older adults are mistakenly spending all of their exercise time walking, doing yoga, Pilates, or bar exercises, these activities alone are not enough to offset devastating muscle and bone losses that will occur without adequate stimulation of muscle. Now, you may think while you're at a bar class, All those teeny tiny little repetitions that make you feel the burn in your muscle are so good for the muscle. However, they are not increasing your muscle tissue. They will not maintain your muscle tissue. Yep, there's a little burn. You may see a little bit of tone there, but if you only have so much time, sister, you better be picking up a weight. There is no way around it. Supplement with those other little activities that you like, but it's like the cake or the frosting. Make sure you know which one you're baking. Fatigue is a critical factor in creating enough overload for muscle, meaning at the end of every set, you have to have reached muscular fatigue. I cannot do one more. Those aforementioned activities, especially yoga or Pilates, selected specifically for an individual's needs, can be an integral part of a complete program. They may support proper alignment and mobility and make movement more comfortable, and in doing that, provide results from a muscular and a bone building strength program. It's a part, it's a foundation, it's a step, and then, but you do need to be strength training. They don't offer enough stimulus for the muscle to significantly increase strength beyond the initial beginning stages. Repetitions are often done to 10 in Pilates, whether it's mat or reformer, before moving on to another exercise. But those 10 repetitions don't bring a muscle to temporary fatigue. And the focus is not on major muscle groups as much as on stabilizing muscles long enough to have the body composition benefit comparable to lifting weights. So you don't get enough focus on those major muscle groups, in other words. Is the time you spend exercising actually improving your life and your health span? That is a question you've got to ask. You're not delicate, and yet you have history. You have used that vehicle that you're living in for 5 or 6 decades, potentially. You have to start smart. You have to progress wisely. And it's key that you do progress. And let me just tell you, sister, random exercises on YouTube are not a progression. It's just, oh, I'm going to do this workout. I'm going to go find one. Interesting. And you have to continue to improve intelligently. You need a made for menopause program, not a marketed for women program. It's not about for your age, it's about ability. It's about status that you currently have. What's the status of your elbows, shoulders, knees, hips? What's the status of your muscle? What's the status of you and your history? Have you been lifting? Do you need to start lifting? Do we need to start slower because of a condition you have? Considering all the things that are seemingly mandatory or acceptable with aging. You know what I mean, right? Accepting that you're slowing down or you can't do something. Shouldn't something that prevents or reverses those prior, this is a part of aging? Shouldn't something that prevents those or reverses them be mandatory? Do you agree that weight training should be mandatory? Exercise after 50? I'd love to hear from you. So put your comments below the show notes and make sure that you're thinking about all the places where you might be falling for a program being targeted at you. Think about the vehicle for delivering videos that YouTube is. So I want to just end this podcast with a statement about what happens on YouTube. And though there may be some well intended YouTubers out there, but literally that's what they're called, YouTubers. When I first started a YouTube channel for Flipping 50 back in 2013, I think I started, my intention was to educate. I didn't know there wasn't such a thing as a YouTuber and an influencer whose main goal was to create very popular videos that lots of people liked so that advertisers would want to use those videos and I would make money based on advertisers. That's the model that a YouTuber has. They're not necessarily seeking growth and progression in followers and the people who are there because they have no control over, are you doing these in sequential order? Are you actually starting at the place where you should start and going here and here and here? And there are a lot of very nice and well meaning people who may not have the education to tell you the things you need to consider about whether this is or isn't right for you at the moment. There are a lot of people sharing what's worked for them, and they're very entertaining, but they may not be as helpful as you need them to be when it comes to asking the questions about your own background, whether it's appropriate for you. So filter for yourself because YouTube is a wild, wild circus, and anyone, it's fair game, it's free. And that is both the appeal and the negative component of it. So there you have it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to hear your concerns. And I know that you may have found someone that you resonate with, and yet keep digging, keep filtering because it's all about you and where you need to be right now and what you need to do next. I will put many resources references underneath the podcast show notes, and I will also put link to a prior episode where, as I was talking with one of our Flipping 50 members and a client who was diagnosed with osteoporosis just prior to the pandemic and came through it during the pandemic, shared about a year later with a post follow up on her DEXA scan for bone density had increased. And I'll tell you how it was done. So there you have it. What are you waiting for? Let's start flipping 50 today.